Thank you for joining me again. My name is Chichi. If you're new to my channel, I just started this channel to really kind of rant because I feel like there are conversations we need to have. There are like things we need to talk about. A lot of things need to be said. A lot. And I titled this video, "You don't want to teach your children about critical race theory," for a reason. And I feel like when people say the title, they'll be like, "Is she crazy?" I am not crazy. How are you listening to me? I know why I'm saying you don't want your children to be taught about critical race theory. You just don't. To begin with, slavery was a period of time in this country that the agony that the American descendants of slaves had to go through is it's incomprehensible. I have watched 12 Years a Slave. I have watched Roots. I have watched I had watched When I Was Colored. I have watched Slaves, the one that had Dionne Warwick. I have watched a lot of movies about slavery. The only thing constant about these movies though is the emotions they elicit in me. Every time I watch these movies, I ended up crying because I couldn't put myself in the shoes to really imagine what these people had to go through. Did I say I couldn't? Okay, what I meant was that I tried putting myself in their shoes and they went through a lot. They did. You know, when we talk about the period of time when slaves were literally sold for like $300, $500, and how a woman that has already had children has already reduced in her price compared to when she didn't have children, and how younger people generally just cost more. It was a lot. And then we moved from there to like Jim Crow, and how voting rights were kind of infringed, how blacks were lynched in Mississippi, how segregation was the main thing. And then of course we had the blacks migrating to the north. For your information, I'm in the north as well. We're gonna stay here. Anyways, back to what I was saying. But then we had the blacks migrating to the north for like a better life, right? And then suddenly progress started to happen. But the main thing I want to draw is that, let's draw this analogy, because a lot of times people don't understand the roles that the white abolitionists had to play in the abolition of slavery. Slavery would not have been completely abolished if the only people that said slavery was a sin were the slaves. Let me recap. Let me go back again. Slavery was abolished because there were institutions owned by the majority at that time, which were the white people, that explicitly talked about slavery being inhuman. Well, the one thing that is very, very clear about these movies that I have watched is that even the movies that talk about like the railroad, whatever scenarios, do not really paint the pictures of, I think they call them the Quakers. They don't really paint like a complete picture, if that makes sense. And how conversations such as the 1H rule, where even if your skin was like white as hell, As long as you had like one person in your family or whatever that was black, you were considered black. And how all these scenarios kind of played into actually ending slavery, because then slavery became just stupid in the sense that there was like the standards of slavery was always shifting in such a way that it wasn't one thing. It was always shifting. It was like there was like the 1/8 rule in the South, and then there were like the blacks also trying to pass, the blacks who could pass as white, and then depending on who was there at their birth, if they had, for instance, if these blacks who were passing as white had at their birth their mother who was also passing as white, they were designated white, right? But then if they had the mother who was black, they were designated colored, even if they were legally, phenotypically speaking, had a white skin and white features. So all of this played into like people just saying that slavery doesn't make sense. But my point is, the abolition of slavery was far and large the collective work of the people that were enslaved, of course, because they felt the heat very well. They felt the heat completely. They felt the pain. They felt the torture. But it was also the collective work of different races, and more so the collective work of the majority, who controlled what I like to call the affairs of that time. And then society evolved. Slavery was abolished. And then the court ruled that it was illegal to discriminate against someone, employment, housing, all of that. Well, housing was kind of later, but like employment and whatever, it was illegal to discriminate against someone based on their race, gender, class. They use sex. Their race, sex, class, nationality, all of that. And here we are in 2021, still debating if we should teach our kids about the critical race theory. I feel like everyone who wants to learn about slavery has a lot of resources to learn about slavery. I don't know about y'all, when there was this heartbreak that I went through. Now, I'm not trying to compare this heartbreak to slavery, okay? So please, I don't want to hear any comments saying, oh, she's comparing. No, I'm not. I'm just giving an analogy. I'm not comparing anything, okay? You guys are not going to cancel me. Don't even think about it, because I'm going to say my mind. If you don't like it, don't watch it, period. But there was this heartbreak that I went through that after the relationship ended, because I really love this man. He was cute. He did have a speech impediment, but I swear to you, that just made him even more cute in my eyes. Or that made him cuter, whatever you guys want to call it. So we did break up finally, and he broke up with me, if you want to know. And I remember just feeling almost desolate. I felt like my life wasn't like worth living anymore. I really did feel bad. I don't want to be reminded about what happened during that time. I don't even want to see this man again. And so when people were actually debating if we should start teaching young kids, we're talking about young kids, and we should start telling them that that white friend, that white boy sitting next to you, he's your enemy. That makes literally no sense. If we should start telling white kids that your ancestors were enslaved. Y'all, we're already in America where a lot of black people would blame anything and everything on white supremacy. Literally. That is America we're all in. The fact they didn't go to college is based on white supremacy, even if they could have had student loans to pay for college, but nope, white supremacy. And now you're bringing a situation where you're teaching kids how to hate. Because if I grew up, okay, now that was also this discussion in Nigeria where parents were asking, should we teach people about the Nigerian Civil War? And there was no discussion about it because the Nigerian government said no. If they grow up and they want to learn about the Civil War, there are books they can go read about the Civil War. All these accounts are in books, movies, if you're interested in watching. But I don't really encourage anyone to watch them because all those things just, if you're not like mentally stable, if you're not like morally, how do I say this? If you don't have like a good moral standing, when you read those books and you watch these movies, you just end up hating people, even though times have thoroughly changed. Even though these days today, you would get any opportunity you deserve if you make yourself outstanding. But when you read and you watch all those movies, it just puts your mind in that victim mentality. But back to what I was saying, if anyone wanted to learn more about this thing, they could go read the movies about slavery. Just saying, as if people wanted to learn more about the Nigerian Civil War, they could go watch movies about the Nigerian Civil War or read books about the Nigerian Civil War. But teaching kids to start hating each other at a young age, teaching kids to see themselves and be ashamed of who they are because of the color of their skin, there is no way I'm going to support that or encourage people to teach that. Because no matter how you want to teach it, it's still going to create hate and trauma. It is. And let me tell you, y'all, Jim Crow ended like 60 years ago. The world is still healing from that trauma, the memories of that. I don't want the younger generation to have this trauma passed on to them. I want the generation to grow up extremely integrated. I dream of a world where, irrespective of your race, class, gender, all of those divisions, there is such integration. There is no need to beg for acceptance. That's the kind of world that I dream about. And this world is definitely not going to be attainable when you start teaching kids that you are below this person because of your skin. Because even if that wouldn't be the unintended consequence, kids understand messages very differently. When you start showing kids messages of black people being traumatized and he has a dark skin, he could associate trauma with having a dark skin. Please don't do this to your kids, please. And I want to encourage people today. There is still racism in the world. There is still racism in America, both ways. Racism from whites to non-whites, from non-white to white, vice versa. But don't become what you claim you hate. If you claim you hate racism, don't become racist yourself. My rule of thumb, I didn't just get here. It took me a long time to get here. Because I had come from Nigeria to the United States and I was just fed with all this. I was just fed a lot of things. I was just fed with a lot of things, a lot of like extremely left. Now I am kind of like in the middle, so I'm neither here or there, but I was just fed with like this extreme left propaganda of a white system holding you back. And then it's like, okay, there was no white system holding me back when I got my visa to leave Nigeria. And I left Nigeria for a reason. Because I had known that Nigeria wasn't going to be the society that I needed to flourish, if that makes sense. Nigeria stifled my dreams, my desires, the kind of person I was. Nigeria stifled that. And so but when I came here for years, I was like just buying into this whole system that wants to keep me down, keep the Black person down. And then it took years of like unlearning. Because when I had come, and then that first semester that I had come, I did very well in my classes. I had a 4.5 GPA that first semester that I came. And I was automatically placed on a 4,500 scholarship, automatically. I was placed on the Dean's list, I was placed on the honors list. And I was like, wait a second. So I got all these privileges irrespective of my skin color, and y'all are telling me that someone is trying to keep me down because of this? That was when the fallacy and the hypocrisy just fell flat on its face. And I'm gonna tell you what I do. When I look at you, you're a human being, you're an individual to me. Okay? I date anyone. Once you're cute, we gonna date. If if we have a spark, right? Once you're cute and once you're not old, we gonna date, right? But it's like at that time, I just had to start telling myself that, okay, this is an individual, right? This is somebody, and I want to learn about this person. This is someone new. I want to see what makes you tick. I want to see how you would treat me. So now I was judging people rather than judging people collectively by their race, as many people in America would do. And maybe because I am from Nigeria, I have like a different perspective. I am like more open to learn and unlearn. Being from Africa, you're just open to learn and unlearn, because a lot of trauma a lot of people are born with, you just don't relate to that trauma. And that's why I'm saying, don't add to the trauma by teaching children about this race stuff. Like if they're interested, there are like resources out there that they can go learn. But don't start by teaching people hate. Anyways, what I do right now is that when I see somebody, you're someone, and I want to see how you would treat me. And then if you're treating me with the kind of bias or whatever, condescending tone, my first line of thought is that, okay, if that person happens to be, for instance, an Asian person, right? Or maybe a white person, I first of all start asking myself, are they having a bad day? Because, oh God, when I'm having a bad day from like my hormone levels, I can be crazy as hell. I can be like all over the place, and if you come near me, I can be like the rudest person you ever met, like so rude. So, I know that about myself, and sometimes I'm like, I want to give them a benefit of doubt. Are they having a bad day? I let the first one slide. You do that the second time, I let it slide, because you could be having a bad day, or maybe at that point I could assume you're an asshole. But then I start watching the way you treat people that don't look like me. After you've done that the second time, now I want to watch. The first time, I don't care. I don't like try to pay close attention, right? But after the second time, I want to watch the way you treat other people. Are you treating them differently? Because now I want to find what is it. I want to find what is that thing about you and me that kind of makes you react to me differently. Now, if that person treats people differently, or people of like another race differently, then I can make a hypothesis that they could be racist. I'm never sure, because one thing about accusing people of racism is that you're never sure that that's the reason why they're treating you differently. They could just not like you, and that could be a reason. Sometimes not even racism, they just don't like you, and honestly, no one is forced to like you. And sometimes it could have nothing to do with racism at all. But by the time that happens like 3 times and you're treating the people of maybe other races differently, I could make the hypothesis, and that way I'm gonna now shift my behavior. If I was like more jovial towards you, I'm gonna like recoil and be more to myself, because I've seen that, okay, you're not the kind of person I want to be with. You have a bias. I don't want to be with someone that has a bias. That's just what it is. So y'all, I hope that this kind of short, long video kind of showed you everything I wanted to say. Please, 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 the world needs love right now. Don't. I'll keep saying it. There is the 1619 project, which your kids can read as teenagers or grown-ups if they're interested. They're like resources in the library, literally, that they can read if they're interested in learning about racism. But the moment you start telling somebody our ancestors went through this because of their skin color, and then let's say you're even telling a black child that our ancestors went through this because of our skin color, and the black child is in a very poor family, there is already a correlation of black and poverty. Teach your kids better. Tell them to aspire. Teach your kids to travel. Teach your kids to aspire for good things. And I wish you guys good luck in raising those beautiful children. I'll catch you next time I make a video. I hope this video wasn't very boring. I want to read like the comments you guys have to say. I think I did make some points. If you thought that I was just talking rubbish, just go ahead and say it. Again, like I said, don't become what you hate. If you hate racism, don't try not to be racist. So watch all the statements you make, okay? Just try not to become what you hate, and I'll catch you guys next time I make a video.